All right, everybody, I'm going to go ahead and get the meeting kicked off. If you don't know me, my name is Dr. Josiah. Just a little bit about me so you know who I am, who you're talking to. I grew up actually one of 9 kids. I grew up on food stamps, sleeping on an air mattress. I never even had my own room of my own growing up. I had to eat my food as fast as possible just growing up just to get seconds. I started working in 3rd grade. I woke up at 2:30 a.m. every morning to help my mom deliver newspapers for 4 hours before going to school. And that's how I bought my own clothes, I bought my own bike. And this is really how I started my mindset. And so today we're going to talk about mindset and how to scale and how I scaled my clinic to over $5 million a year. And I really think it all starts with mindset. And so from an early age, I didn't have a lot. I didn't have really anything that a lot of people maybe had early on growing up, but I had my mindset. And so starting at very early age, I realized that if I could work and I could put in the time and I could figure out how to think about things, then I could be very, very successful. And so, like I said, having a job, working 4 hours in the morning before I ever went to 3rd grade, I realized, hey, I can start buying things. I bought my own bike. I bought my own PlayStation when I was a kid. And then when I got to chiropractic school, I realized they don't teach you anything about business, right? And so I've got to figure out, how do I learn about business? I ended up going to over 50 different clinics while I was in school just to learn how to run a proper business. And so before my clinic even opened, I'd already had 400 prepaid appointments in my office, already prepaid. In our first year, we did over $1 million. Our second year, we did over $2 million. And then COVID happened our 3rd year. And then the 4th year went over $5 million, all in 1,800 square feet. Okay. And so that's what I want to talk about today, is how that was possible. What are the top things that I utilized over the last few years to scale my clinic over $5 million? And the reason I want to start off with a little bit about my background and where I grew up with is because that's where I developed that mindset of, if you put your mindset to it, there's always a way to figure out what to do and how to do it. You just have to have the proper mindset of how to think. And so that's really the ultimate things that I want to talk about. I want to talk about 3 overarching ways of what to think, okay? Because at the end of the day, your why behind what you do is really what matters. Asking someone what they do, is important. And you can ask me what I do for this, what I do for that. But if I can teach you guys how to think and, why you do something, then you're going to be able to make all those decisions and scale on your own without having to ask a question with each step along the way. And that's one of the biggest things I actually talk about with my team all the time, is if we can get them to think properly, then they're not going to have questions. Hey, when I run into this situation, what do I do? When I run into this situation, what do I do? Because maybe they never encountered that situation before. But if you understand how to think and why you're doing something, then you're going to be able to continually take the next steps and the next actions. Okay. And, if you're like me, you're always trying to find people that are bigger, better than you, that you can always learn from. And so I have a really good friend of mine that is a financial planner, and he does financial planning for lots of billionaires. And so I asked him, I said, hey, ask your billionaires, what's different? What's different about a billionaire versus a regular person? And they told me 3 things. Number 1, they said billionaires are very, very comfortable with risk. Okay. Very comfortable because they know the reward on the outside is great. Okay. They know if they fail 5 times, but they hit it big on the 6th time, that can set them up for the rest of their life. Number 2, they said, is mindset, which is what I'm talking about today. Why they do things is much more important than what they do. And so that's what I really want to focus on today. And the 3rd one is they think bigger. They don't think, how do I get to 1 million? How do I get to 5 million? They say, how do I get to 100 million? How do I get to a billion? And so that's really the overarching framework that you need to have. When you think about things, don't think, how do I slightly improve? Because if you only get 10% better every single year, you might as well put your money in the stock market, because that's what the stock market can get you, about 8 to 12%, maybe 10% average annually. So if you want to perform better than just putting something into passive, and you're putting in all this time, effort, and energy to grow in the scale, you want to grow more than 10% a year. So the 3 overarching mindsets I want to talk about today is marketing mindset, team mindset, and then also structural mindset. Okay. And the last one, you're probably like, what is structural mindset? And I'm going to dive into that. I think that's one of the biggest untapped secrets in our profession, is not understanding structure. We understand lots of processes, day 1s, day 2s, how do you process patients, but we don't really understand the structure of scaling. Okay. But first of all, I want to dive into marketing. Now, we did an entire webinar last month on marketing, and we broke down how to calculate the lifetime value of a customer, and then that you can determine how much you can spend per person. So if you want that link to that recording, we have a whole downloadable sheet, how to calculate LTV, all that type of stuff. Just comment LTV in the group chat, LTV for lifetime value, put that in the group chat, and I'll make sure that we get that emailed over to you. It has a whole webinar on how to maximize marketing, and also has a whole spreadsheet on how to calculate your lifetime value. And so going into marketing, what I want you guys to think about is an investing analogy like I just talked about. If you put $1,000 into the stock market, and at the end of the year, it turns into $1,100, you got a 10% return, and you're pretty happy with that overall. You know, Warren Buffett, you know, if he, let's say, invests over the course of his, you know, all those years, you know, I heard he has 15 to 20%, you know, annual returns. Right? Let's say you put $1,000 and it turns into $1,500. You get a 50% return on your money. Like, you're over the moon. You know, you're a genius. If you can do that year after year after year after year over time, you would be considered a genius in the stock market. And so lots of doctors that I talk to, they put $1,000 into marketing. They get patients that sign up, you know, for money far exceeding that, and they think they didn't get a very good return on their spend. Maybe you put $1,000 in an ad spend and you only sign up 2 people, and you're like, well, that wasn't very good. I only got 2 signups. Well, the lifetime value of those customers, you know, let's say is conservatively $1,000. That is worst case scenario. Most people have lifetime value much higher than $1,000. But if your lifetime value is only $1,000, you spend $1,000 and you make $2,000, you know, you just got a 200% return on your money. Okay. And so that's the biggest thing I want people to understand is marketing in our profession is very, very simple. All right. There's all different avenues. Like I said, we can dive into those, but overall, you need to understand the mindset. Okay. That if you can, it's not figuring out how much do you spend. You know, a lot of people are like, should I spend $1,000? Should I spend $2,000? Should I spend $5,000? Should I spend $10,000? None of that matters until you calculate lifetime value. And so that's what that sheet is all about. That's what that sheet will walk through. That webinar will walk through. So I don't want to spend a whole bunch of extra time on that specific piece of marketing. But the biggest thing I talk to a lot of doctors is they come and they say, hey, I'm getting 7 times ROI on my ads. I'm getting 3 times ROI on my ads. Should I do more ads? And I always ask the question, well, if you have a vending machine and you put $1 into a vending machine and it gives you $3 back, how many dollars do you think you should put into the vending machine, right? As many as you possibly can, right? Every dollar you put in, you get $3 back. Even if you only get $2 back, you would put as many dollars as you humanly possibly can into that vending machine if you're getting out more than you put into it, okay? The only reason you would stop putting money in is you can't carry more, right? And so that's, you know, the symbolism of team. You know, then you need to hire more people, right? Or, you know, you don't have a big enough vehicle to carry everything. Well, then you need a bigger space, right? So then you're going to get into operations and team building. And that's the next topic I'm going to talk about. But really, from a frame of mind, from a marketing perspective, you need to calculate your LTV. You need to know how much you can spend, okay? How much you can spend to have someone bring in and still be profitable. And oftentimes that number is way, way higher than you think. You actually can do much better. That whole spreadsheet calculates show up rate, sign up rate, retention rate, all that you can calculate into that spreadsheet based on how much a person, you know, comes in over the lifetime value of their care in their office, how much they're worth, also calculating in how much a referral is worth and how often they refer people into your office. Okay. And so that's really the overarching frame of mind, is you need to figure out LTV first and foremost. Then from there, you need to figure out what is my capacity of my clinic. You need to maximize the capacity of your clinic. And so here's what I always tell people. If you have a capacity, let's just say you can handle 20 new patients a week. Okay. 20 new patients, 20 day ones a week is the maximum of your capacity. If you have anything less than that, okay, you're still paying all your staff the same number of hours. You're still paying the exact same amount of rent. Okay, your overhead, for the most part, is exactly the same, whether you have a 50% full schedule or a 100% full schedule. Okay, so think about that. You need to maximize the time slots that you have to run at maximum profitability and operational effectiveness. And so, yes, when you very first start doing marketing, there's going to be people that you bring in and what I like to call the low-hanging fruit. If you walk up to an apple tree, right, you're going to pick up the shiniest apples that are the lowest, the easiest to grab. right? Then you're going to go to the next level, get the next ones, then you're going to go to the next level. Think about that same framework with marketing, all right? If you have a marketing strategy that you can get in new patients at a lower cost per lead, lower cost per day one, absolutely, you want to do those first and foremost, and you want to try and get as many people in at that valuation, that lower valuation as possible. But let's say that only fills your schedule 50% of the way. Well, then what's the next strategy that might cost a little bit more to acquire that person, but still is profitable based on your lifetime value calculation? Then maybe that takes you to 70% full capacity, right? And then you say, okay, I'm only at 70% full capacity. What's the third marketing strategy that I need to bring in? Maybe that takes you to 80, 90% capacity. And you want to keep doing that. And yes, those second, third, fourth, fifth marketing strategies might be a little more costly. The cost per lead might not be the exact same. You might not be getting the 100% same ROI as the first ones, but you still have openings on your schedule, right? Maybe at the bottom level, you're getting 7 times ROI. Then these ones are getting 5 times ROI. Then these ones are getting 3 times, 2 times, 1.5 times ROI. Like I said, 1.5 times ROI, that would be, putting $1,000 in the stock market, getting out 1,500. You'd be a genius just if you got 1.5 times ROI in the stock market, right? The average, is 1.1 times, right? And so a lot of doctors I talk to, they get upset. I'm only making 2x, I'm only making 3x, right? ROI, all right? You're making more than you're spending, right? And so the problem is a lot of people run into a bottleneck of staff, right? And so that's the next thing I really want to talk about is the hiring mindset. But from a marketing perspective, just think of that perspective. You're getting more out than you're putting in. You want to keep feeding the machine until the schedule is full. Typically, you're going to run out of people first, okay? And so you need to hire more team. You have the higher capacity. My clinic, like I said, when we got to 5 million, we were in 1,800 square feet. We were seeing 1,100 visits a week in 1,800 square feet. So I know for most people, space is never going to be the problem. If we could do that at 1,800 square feet, I know you could do it in your space and your capacity. So first and foremost, marketing, maximize the schedule, but then you're going to have a people problem, all right? And people problem can be a very big problem. And so that's what I want to jump into. Number 2 is the hiring and the people mindset. And so the number one bottleneck you're really ever going to have in your clinic is people. You're going to have not enough people, or you're going to have not good enough people, all right? And a lot of times when you think about people, you think about team. A lot of people think about headaches. They think about extra work. They think about frustration, drama. And yes, can that come with a bigger team? Absolutely. But you really need to reshift your mind. A lot of people view team members as liabilities, expenses. Yes, your payroll is going to be, your largest expense, on your P&L every single month. But we need to look at them as investments, as assets. Human resources, HR, human resources. Humans are our number one resource. Any other precious resource in the world, right? Gold, diamonds, silver, you want more of it. You want higher quality. And you need to have that exact same mindset about team members, okay? You want to get the highest quality team members. Yes, are the highest quality team members going to produce more? Yeah. They're going to cost more? Yes. But they are going to produce infinitely more as well. Shift your mindset. Team members are income producing assets. They're not bank draining liabilities. And that's what I really want people to get across, is to view your team as assets, okay? You need to hire ahead of a need. You need to hire to grow, not when you need to grow, not when your team is getting burned out and, oh, now I finally need to hire someone, we're backed up. You need to stay ahead of the growth. You need to reward your team members. You need to have structural and KPIs that they're accountable for so they can see, here's where I'm at, here's where I want to be. You need to invest in your team in trainings, okay? We close our entire office down every single Tuesday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Tuesdays just to do all of our team meetings and our team trainings from 12 o'clock to 4 o'clock for 4 hours every single Tuesday. That's all we do is team training, because we know if we invest back into our team, they're going to grow, and you maybe have heard the saying, if I invest in my team, I'm going to make them better. What happens if they leave, right? But the other question is, if I don't invest in my team, what happens if they stay, right? And that is what happens with so many people, is they don't reinvest in their team. Team members don't grow with them, right? And then the company doesn't grow as a result, and they're frustrated. But you've got to invest in your people. Just for example, a case manager, for example, we did the math. If a case manager, in one of the clinics I talked to, if they had just had a 10% higher sign-up rate, this case manager was averaging about 60% sign-up rate. If this case manager, the doctor was closing 80%. If that case manager could gotten up to 70% close rate, 10% improvement, that doctor would have made another $400,000 in that 1 year because of that case manager having a 10% higher sign-up rate. You know, if you have a rock star associate doctor, the retention that they provide of people not dropping off the bat, people continuing into wellness care, that's going to pay way more than their salary. If you have a rock star front desk team member, you know, paying $1 to $5 more per hour is going to elevate the culture, the practice member experience. That's going to elevate and bring in way more revenue, profitability than any of that additional cost. And so you have to look at team members, like I said, from that standpoint of an investment. They're assets, they're not liability, right? But you have to surround them, you know, with a great culture. You need to surround them with core values, and you need to surround them with accountability, with employee engagement. All right, you need to celebrate them. You know, we do gifts for their anniversary. We do gifts for their birthdays? We have a sheet that we actually give them on their very first day, and it's called their favorite sheet. What is your favorite cake? What is your favorite candy? What is your favorite way to be communicated to? You know, what is your favorite smell? What are your favorite flowers? What's your favorite restaurant? What's your favorite place to get gift cards? We give this to them on their very first day on the job, and they fill that out. So when it is their birthday, when it is their anniversary, when they did crush, right, then we know exactly how they like to be talked to, how they like to be rewarded, what are things that are special and individualized to them versus just generic gifts, because that's going to go 10 times further when you personalize things to the person, you know, that you're talking about, right? The other big part from a hiring standpoint, as you scale and as you're trying to scale and get bigger and bigger and bigger, you're going to need to transition from chiropractic assistants, CAs, to specialists, okay? Most people hire CAs, okay, or chiropractic assistants first, and that's absolutely necessary. That's exactly how I started as well, right? They're going to work a little bit at the front desk. They're going to do a little bit of back office. They're going to do some admin. Maybe they help with marketing, you know, maybe they help with sales, right? They're a jack of all trades. And when you have 1, 2, 3, 5 staff, it's totally understandable, all right? But as you start to scale, you need to start developing them into specialists. If they're starting to be in all these different positions, there's most likely different areas that they really love to do and that they're really great at. And so when we got to this point, we had about 5 team members, and we re-interviewed all of them, one-on-one, individually, say, hey, we want to transition you into a specialist. What do you love to do? What are you the best at? Where do you think you provide the most value to our company? And then we replace them. Some of them, you know, love the employee, you know, patient interaction. They love being at the front desk. You know, they're high energy. Some of them say, hey, I really like paperwork. I want to sit in the back. I'm not as much of a people person. I really enjoy just getting work done, knocking stuff out, being laser focused, right? You have some of those people that are a little bit of mixture of both of them. You know, those are the people that are going to help, you know, maybe with the new patient appointments. They like their personality is good enough to talk to people. They're very good, maybe more in one-on-one settings versus the high volume at the front desk, you know, high and by saying to everybody. And so you want to understand what is that person love to do? What are they great at? There's different personality tests, there's different DISC assessments, there's all different types of things that you can utilize as resources as well. But you want to have a profile for each position in your office. What is the ideal skills? What is the ideal purpose of this role? And what are the KPIs that this person needs to be able to attain to be successful in this role? The other big part of team is empowerment, okay? You want your team to be a part of the success. You want their team to feel like they're part of the growth, of the vision. They want to be a part of the mission, okay? And so that's why it's so important to have core values, to have a mission statement, to have a vision statement. You can go on our website, verohealthcenter.com, if you want to look at my own, you know, vision, mission, and values. And, you know, you feel free to tweak them, you know, and for yourself. You know, but you need to have some type of shining North Star that people are striving towards, that they're achieving towards. And then they need to be able to give feedback of how can things be made better. You know, we have in our clinic what's called a bright idea form, very, very basic, just a simple form. At any time, they can pull it out and write down an idea that they think, you know, isn't optimized as best as possible. And they need to write 2 or 3 ways that they think it can be improved. And they can turn that in at any time. And we also have weekly meetings, annual meetings, quarterly meetings. I'm going to go into the structure. But as a leader of the company, right, a lot of people are changing CEO to CVO, Chief Vision Officer. You need to be the vision. You need to be the oversight to help people know where they're at, where you're going, and how we're going to get there. And so really, number one job as the owner of a company is employee retention. Okay, your job is to create an incredible atmosphere, environment, and culture, and a vision of from where you're at to where you want to be, and how employees can be a part, of that growth. So how do you get great people? How do you do it? I highly recommend an applicant tracking system. Okay, the one that I personally use is called Applicant Pro. Okay, it just connects to Indeed, connects to all those job sites. And so that actually is a very, very good tool to just manage everything. We have people do video interviews when they first apply, all automated, just really streamlines the process. And the other biggest thing I would really implore is an employee referral program. And so if any employee refers any of their friends, that come work for us and we end up hiring them, we actually pay $1,000 for a part-time employee referral. We pay $5,000 for a full-time employee referral, because the cost of not having a great employee is way, way, way more expensive than finding the best ones to begin with. Okay, so that concludes the second one. We've gone through marketing, we've gone through hiring. If you weren't on at the very beginning of the call, I have a whole spreadsheet for marketing on how to calculate lifetime value. If you do want that, just comment LTV in the chat, okay? And I'll get you a link for that with an entire calculator on how to calculate that. All right, for the hiring mindset, like I said, we need to look at them not as liabilities, but actually assets. HR stands for human resources. Humans are the #1 resource to help us be successful. All right, now the third mindset, this is what I really, really, really believe is a #1 missing understanding in the chiropractic profession, is the mindset behind structure. Okay, when I was in school, when I've gone to all these different groups throughout the year, so many of them preach processes. You have a day 1, you have a day 2, maybe you have a doctor's report, maybe you have a group doctor's report, however you do it, maybe do it all in one day, maybe do it in 2 days, whatever it is. You have a process. The patient comes in, you greet them, you give them the paperwork, right? You check their insurance, you verify their paperwork, you give them maybe an office tour, you walk them in the office, you do any examinations, you take any x-rays, they pay for those, they leave, they come back, day 2, come back, report of findings, okay, they're under care, they have a care plan, however you do it, right? Those are processes, okay, but what's missing is structure, and structure is your organization and accountability for how you do everything, all right? And so one of the first frameworks of that is the rhythms of how you do meetings. We have daily meetings, weekly meetings, monthly, quarterly, and yearly meetings, okay? But this is how you scale, and this is how you manage large businesses. This is how you manage many businesses, okay? By having structure. If you have structure, you have the right people in the right seats, held accountable to specific KPIs. They have specific purposes, goals, and projects that they're working on, and they are held accountable to. Okay, and so this is how I've personally scaled and how I've personally delegated and grown my clinic, is with this proper structure. Okay, and so currently I have over 70 Airbnbs. I have over 500,000 square feet of commercial space. I have 2 farms. I have a 4,000 head cattle feedlot. I have a warehouse. I have a hotel that I converted into a 35-unit multifamily. I have a heavy equipment leasing company. I have tractors. I have a manure spreader. I have an excavator. I'm also married. I got 3 kids. I got a 4-month-old. Okay. All of that. And I got my clinic, and we have Lucro, right? And none of this is possible without structure, okay, and accountability. And so this is what I really think is the missing piece, because people are saying, how do you do all that? How do you manage all those different things, right? And this is it: structure, accountability, purpose, KPIs. You need to start with accountability chart. Okay, you need to map that out right after this call. Don't just listen to this call and don't do anything. This would be one of the biggest action steps you could possibly do, and say, hey, who's all the people on my team? What are their job titles? What is their purpose? And then what are they held accountable for at the end of the day? What are their KPIs? Okay. And so the biggest thing I find with so many doctors is that the same person is accountable. How many new patients did we get? How many total visits did we see? What were the collections? Who's the head of marketing? Who's the head of clinical? Who's the head of operation? Who's the head of sales? I would bet most of you guys are the head of all those things. Maybe you got one of those delegated. Maybe you have 2 of those. Congratulations. I hope you do. But most people, at the end of the day, if the numbers aren't where they are supposed to be, it comes back to the owner of the clinic. It comes back to 1, maybe 2 people. And so by doing that, you can't continue to grow and scale, because you have to be accountable for so many things. You have to juggle so many different plates. And so by aligning structure within your organization, By having rhythms and structure and accountability, then you say, hey, this person is ahead. This is their title. This is their purpose. These are their KPIs. These are the metrics they need to hit. And this is what they're held accountable to. And then you roll in the rhythms of accountability. How often are you talking about those accountability? So the way we do it is every single day we have a daily team huddle. We go over the schedule. Everyone shares their positive, from the day before. And then we have a team prayer. All right. And then we kind of break it down sports style. That's how we start the day. But everyone's accountable, is assigned all the special appointment codes for meetings for that day, whether it be day ones or day twos or financials or any type of special appointments. All the people that are accountable for who's going to take care of that appointment throughout the day are assigned. Okay, so that we know who is responsible for each one of these appointments, right? And then on a weekly standpoint, when we first started, it was just a one team meeting, right? But now we're larger. We have a back office meeting, we have a front desk meeting, we have a sales meeting, we have a doctor's meeting, and we have a marketing meeting, because we have all of those departments. When you first start, you're just gonna have one. You're gonna have one team meeting, but you're gonna all get on the same page, right? And you're gonna say, hey, these are all the KPIs for this last week. These are where we're at. This is where we're supposed to be. If we fell short of those numbers, what happened? What did we miss? Okay, if we were above those numbers, awesome. What did we do? What can we continue to do to stay at that level? And so you need to incorporate those with rhythms of review, all right? And then it's not going to happen overnight. Like I said, at the beginning, you might be accountable for all the KPIs, but then you need to start figuring out who is the best person that has the most control over this part of the practice, right? And then start assigning those KPIs to those team members, and then they can be held accountable to achieving those. Then you can obviously build in commission structures, bonus structures. That's a whole other topic of conversation, that we could definitely do a webinar on how to do that exactly. But if you can define the structure of who's responsible for what their purpose are, what their KPIs are, and then you can establish the rhythms, daily meeting huddles, weekly team meetings, monthly reviews of the whole month. We do all team quarterlies. Those Tuesdays are really nice. Like I said, since we're closed from 9 to 4 every quarter, we take that entire chunk and we just do an entire team quarterly meeting. And we do a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, challenges analysis of every single one of those departments within our organization. And from that meeting, we come up, what are the top things within our organization that we need to focus on for the next quarter to grow and scale, right? And so that's really the methodology that I actually learned a lot during COVID, when a lot of things shut down. I had even more free time, on my hands, and I started reading a lot about scaling. And some of the fastest scaling companies in the history of the world have all been, most of them have been tech companies. Okay, and if you look up a lot about tech companies, a lot of them use a process called agile methodology. Okay, and on its simplistic form, and what that agile methodology is they work in what's called 2-week sprints. Okay, and so every 2 weeks, they essentially reevaluate the entire business, and they figure out what is the number one most important thing that we can do in the next 2 weeks to have the single largest impact on the organization. And every single 2 weeks, they do that. And so instead of, this is where you're going in your goal and doing this, and then after a month or 6 months or a year, finally getting back to center, agile methodology is like this. You're always heading towards your North Star. You're always heading towards your goal, because you're so fastly evaluating where you're going and what you're doing and what the next most important thing is to do to have the largest impact on your organization. So having that proper structure of analysis with rhythms, accountability, an organizational chart, assigning KPIs to specific people, and then doing those weekly meetings is going to be the fastest way to grow and scale and to make these changes. Because I know I talked about a lot of different things today, and you can't implement all these things overnight. You can't even implement them maybe in the next quarter. They're going to take time, but you need to figure out what's the number one thing that I talked about today. What's the number one thing in your business that you can implement as soon as possible and have that be the number one focus and priority, right? And then after you knock that out, what's the next one thing, right? There's lots of books out there. I know Gary Keller, I believe, wrote the book called The One Thing. All these types of things that say focus on the top priority. So that's really what it is at the end of the day. So, I want to be respectful of your time. We're about 30 minutes after 8. Okay. At the end of the day, consistency. If you improve 1% each day, you will actually be 37 times better in 365 days. 37 times just by improving 1% every single day. And so, in summary, by focusing on your marketing mindset, again, comment LTV in the chat if you want that download. by understanding how much you can spend on to bring a new patient in, by maximizing your schedule, by looking at team members from a different perspective. They're human resources. The most precious resource in the world is not diamonds or gold or platinum. It's humans, okay? And by having the structure and the framework of an organization, accountability, and regular meeting rhythms to continue to grow and scale, that's really how you're going to take it to the next level. And so I want to thank everybody for being on the call today, in the chat. I just posted some links. If this is the first time you've interacted us with Lucro, we do bookkeeping specifically for chiropractors. It's founded off my clinic, and then also our founder, Adam, oversaw and did fractional consulting for $100 million companies. People would pay him $25,000 a month to do consulting. And so we've combined together to create Lucro, where we do bookkeeping for you. We balance your books every single week. And then by the 10th of every single month, we give you a report, okay, of action steps that you can do to grow and scale your business based off of my clinic, what I've done, and also based off of Adam's expertise. And so if you want to grow, if you want to scale, if you want to get to the next level, like I just talked about, the number one thing is consistency with taking the next action steps. What's the next highest level priority and putting that into action? Okay.